Analyst and a visiting fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations. A number of interesting points made there by Ahmed Assiri, Adam, but let me start by asking you about the ceasefire, because we were seeing a great deal of fighting in different parts of the country in the run-up to it. Does it look like this truce can work?
I mean, we're about 10 minutes in now, so it remains to be seen. I think when we compare this to the first two attempts at the ceasefire, obviously it's important to remember that this is the third one, there are more positive signs as we look at the situation now than there were the last two times around. What Brigadier General Assiri mentioned about the fact that we're having these joint talks between the ceasefire monitoring committee split between members of the Houthis and the military loyal to Salah, and resistance fighters and the military loyal to Hadi. We had known that this was happening, but the fact that it's happening in Saudi Arabia, on Saudi land, is quite significant. The fact that it's happening in Dhahran al-Janub, part of Saudi Arabia that until recently was under the line of fire of Houthi shelling, that's symbolically very interesting and very significant. So I think when we look, I mean, even in a best-case scenario, we're talking about building a potential foundation for a very long process to end this conflict in Yemen. But there are potential signs that this could go better than it did the first two times around. I mean, obviously, that's a pretty low bar.
I was just going to say,
fires in Yemen, unfortunately, were broken almost immediately.
Speaking to Ahmed Assiri just there, he's optimistic that this ceasefire will survive and that it will provide enough breathing room for the parties to discuss something longer term. He's also very optimistic that the Houthis will get behind the UN Resolution 2261, which I think calls for their withdrawal from Sana'a. What do you make of that?
I think the devil is in the details, so to speak. And when you look at 2216, it's a resolution where a lot of it, the key is going to be not just the implementation, but the way it's implemented. You have very hardline implementations of this, which are basically saying, effectively, people invoking 2216 to say that they have a blank check to wipe the Houthis off the map. And then you now have Houthi spokespeople sort of iterating an interpretation of 2216 that allows the Houthis to have much more breathing room in the capital. Of course, a large number of members and followers of the Houthi movement are natives of Sana'a, so it's impossible to say that these people are going to be removed from the capital. The question is whether we're going to talk about the demobilization of the militias that have largely, entered into areas where we're speaking of people who are not from these areas going into. For example, Taiz. Many of the people fighting in Taiz on the Houthi side are not native to Taiz, to say nothing of the south and other parts of the country. So the real question is whether we have, one, demobilization, and two, the handover of heavy weaponry. And those, I think, are two key things that are, very key demands from the Saudi side and the government side. The question is whether the Houthis will agree to it, one, and two, how they will agree to do it.
Yeah, it's definitely a complicated battlefield, but it'll be interesting to see how the political process unfolds. Thanks very much, Adam Barron.